Morning, everyone. This morning we're going to get a snowblower ready to be put away for the season, and it's an Ariens Deluxe 24. Let's go get that done. So before you do anything, the first thing you should do is disconnect the spark plug wire. Just pull it off. Just leave it hang there. Alright. First thing I'm going to do, I take a clean measuring cup. This particular one takes a 16 millimeter wrench. I like to take a pair of vice grips, channel locks, pliers, anything to hold the tube in place. Because when there's times where this is so tight that when you go to take it off, it'd pull the tube off the engine. And you don't want to do that. So we'll just put it there. Don't put the vice grips too tight, just snug to hold it. Get my measuring cup down there. And we'll just drain the oil. Now you can take your vice grips off. And as you see, it's draining slow. We can come right up here. And spin that out to let it go a little faster. So it gets some more air. But as you see, that doesn't always help. I do have a block of wood underneath it to tip it up so the oil runs back. I can try to tip it back more to see if it'll go faster, and it don't really help. I use measuring cup for two reasons. One, so you can measure how much oil is in there as long as you checked it before to make sure it was full. Two, this way you can check that oil and see if there's any metal grits in it or anything like that. So we're just going to let that keep draining. Alright, so while the oil is draining, I'll take and pull the spark plug out. And we'll take a look and see how that looks. See if we can clean it or if it needs to be replaced. Alright, so as you can see, that spark plug is burning nicely. So I'm going to go in, I'll just take it to the wire wheel for a little bit, clean it up, and I'll come put it back in. Now that the spark plug is all clean and new again, well, looks like new again, let's put it back in. And again, that is a tight fit in there. So we'll get it started a few threads by hand so we don't cross thread it. And I believe this was only her second winter with this thing. So, alright, that's good enough for me. Okay, so oil's done draining. And let's see. That is 20 ounces of oil. Is what it holds. Oil's a little dirty, but it's good. I don't see any metal shavings. So we're going to put this back on. And we're just going to snug this up. We're not going to over tighten it. Alright, I think that's good. Yep. Alright, for the next step we're going to pull out the shear pins so we can grease this thing up. Alright, now this is a good time to inspect them for damage. So we'll clean the grease off. And looks in pretty good shape. So we'll set that one off to the side. Now let me get the other one. Alright, so for this part, we're going to grease it. We're going to put this right on there. And we'll give it a few pumps. 2, 3, 4. We'll pull it off. And we'll give it a few spins. We're going to keep spinning it to get that grease to work down to the other end. Alright, so now that we shot some grease in there, we're going to clean these up. Alright, so now that the auger is greased, shear bolts are back in. We're just going to snug those up. You don't want to tighten them too tight because again they will break. So you just want to snug them up. About like that. If you go too loose, they'll fall out. If you go too tight, they'll break. So you won't get the feel for it. Alright, so as you can see, the pins back here look good. Everything up here looks good. So we'll just wipe off any excess grease that might be floating around to clean it up. And that's that. Next step. So the next step is we're going to inspect cables and springs. Cable looks good. The spring inside here looks to be good. This one over here, spring is in good shape. The cable is also in good shape. So when it comes to the cables and springs, everything out here is looking good. Alright, so on this machine, the only complaint she had was when she's snow blowing, the chute would automatically turn on its own from the pressure. So for that, we just go underneath here and we'll just tighten up this spring. We'll just give it a little, we'll just tighten it up a little more. To eliminate that. Now it won't turn without the handle. And that might be a little too tight, so we'll back it off just a little bit. Now as you see, when I move it by hand, that also turns. So it should no longer move on. Alright, next we'll inspect the belts. These bolts here are 10 millimeter. So we'll zip these out. Set those off to the side, don't lose them. So on this side, there's a 10 mil right here. Alright, so we got that off. Set it to the side so you don't lose it. Now we can just lift this cover right up and off. You can inspect the cover and see if you see any belt shavings, and there is some, not a lot. So bring you in here. We'll look for any rips, cracks, any of that. engage the auger. The belts seem like they have good tension. Feeling the belt around the inside, and everything feels good. Drive belt seems good. Not too tight, not too loose. Looking at the belt down here. You might not be able to see it up there, but down here the belt looks good. So I'm going to put the cover back on, and then we'll move to the next step. Alright, so the next thing we'll do is we'll inspect the recoil cord. Again, spark plug is disconnected, so it's not going to accidentally start. So we'll pull it all the way out. We're going to inspect this. Make sure there's no frays, cuts, or any abrasions. And it's in good shape. So that's that. Alright, the next thing I will do is I will pull the wheels off. Pop these clips off. They just pull up or out towards you and push off. Just like that. Alright, as you can see, it was coming off hard because it was already starting to rust. It does have a shear pin, cotter, so whatever you want to call it. Alright, so we're just going to take a wire brush and clean it up. Clean it all up good. Inspect the key. Looks to be in good shape. Now we'll turn the machine into a Tin Man. We're going to use some anti-seize lubricant. We're just going to smear some anti-seize all over here. This will keep it from rusting and that wheel getting stuck on there like it was. We'll put the key back on. And we can inspect the tire while it's off. Make sure there's no cracks or anything around the sidewalls. Alright, so now we put that on. We can wipe off a little anti-seize here. Inspect the clip. Make sure there's no cuts. And everything is good. We can put that back on. Missing the valve stem cover. I will see if I have one in the garage that we can put back on. Alright, so we'll go do the same thing on the other side. Alright, next step is we're going to pull the belly pan off. There was two 10mm up here, 2 more here, and 2 more down here. So we'll pull it off. Again, you can see some stuff on there from the belt. So it's a good time to check the friction wheel for any cracks or board spots. And that looks good. Inspect the chain. Inspect the gears. All that's looking good. You can look at a belt, drive belt here. You can see some of the auger belt down here. can sit here and you can move the friction wheel back and forth. Everything's moving freely. So all that looks good. Alright, so now that that's all done, inspecting it, we can take just a little bit of grease. You can use white lithium. I use Mobile 1, same thing I use on the auger. It's for very cold temperatures. And we're just going to rub it around the friction wheel disc shaft. Doesn't take a lot. I'm just going to smear it around. Put a little more. Because you don't want to put too much, because then it's going to get down on that friction wheel plate right here. You want to keep that clean. Otherwise it's going to slip and you're not going to have a drive. So, get that done. Move it back and forth a couple of times to work it around. Next step, I like to take a little bit of brake cleaner and spray it on that disc and just clean it up. Just clean it up as good as you can. A little more on this side. And be sure that that's nice and clean. Smear a little grease around the teeth of this. Doesn't take a lot, because again, you don't want to get it on the friction wheel. Work it around. Alright, so that's worked around on there. Now we're just going to wipe it off. Any excess around the wheel part. Leaving what we can on the teeth. And that's that. So that looks good in there. So I'm going to put the cover back on and then we'll go to the next step. Alright, next thing I'll do is max pressure on these tires is 20 psi. So we'll pull the valve stem cap off. We'll check it. And it's right around 17 psi. So we're going to leave it there. I mean, run around, check the other side. And same thing, right about 17, close to 18, so we're good there. Alright, now that we got verified that air was in the tires, we're going to check to make sure we have clearance here. And I'll usually take a washer that's about 1/8 of an inch, run it on each side, and verify that it fits. And so this side is a little more than the other. The other one side I cannot get the washer underneath. And it's actually worn right here, because on the sides it doesn't fit. So what we're going to do, we're going to come over here and we're going to loosen these up. We're going to come back over here. Lift this up a little bit. Get the washer underneath there. I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. Reason for doing this is you want it to run 1/8 of an inch off the ground. so you don't wear out the plate and the housing. So now that that's done, have that all the way down. And we'll tighten these back up. Keep it on the washers. It's cheaper to replace the skid shoes than the housing and the plate. So now we'll come to this side and loosen it up. Okay, get back up. And that's that. So I'll come over here and pull the washers out. And now the washers slide underneath. So that's good. That's that part. So you're wondering if I ever put the oil back in. Nope, not yet. We're about to do that. Pull the dipstick out. Remember, we took out 20 ounces of oil. So we measured out 20 ounces. Verify with your owner's manual exactly how much oil your machine takes. This one, 20 ounces came out. We'll put 20 in and then we'll check it. Some machines actually even have it stamped right on the dipstick. How many ounces? Alright, here we go. 20 ounces. And it's full. So now that that's all done, we just do a visual check. Make sure everything else looks good. Wiring doesn't look bad. Come around over here. Inspect the primer bulb. Make sure that's in good shape. And other than that, we're pretty much done. Now is a good time. You can put the spark plug wire back on. That's on nice and tight. Make sure it's situated so it's not going to rub on that metal. So what do you say? Turn the gas on. Turn the key on. It's like 70 degrees out, so I don't think we need to choke. Let's prime it. So there you go. That is what I do. Have a good